That will council. Right, starting now.
Sorry, see who wants to.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko o tākoro ko opo aho ko puhara ki nui mata awa I tai te moana, ko wata te hapori kinga painga o tātou e mahi nei ko Pomat Mount Ingoa, ko au te marakura o tēnā ko Ari nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Hi everyone and welcome to the Waitai Community Board. And if you'd like to join us in our opening karakia. All right. Do we have any apologies? We have an apology for Tim Baker, who's on honeymoon. Any other apologies? No other apologies. Would someone like to move that those apologies? That apology be accepted? Well, I think I'll take the hands. Moved by Jackie, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Does anyone need to make any declarations of interest? No? Okay, then moving on to the confirmation of previous minutes. So moved by Jackie, seconded by.
Yep.
I'll take that. Kelly, seconded by Kelly. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, thank you. So now we move on to public forum. The public forum is time for up to 5 minutes for people can come and talk to us about anything they like for up to 5 minutes, including questions. But this is for stuff that's not on the agenda. And later we'll have some deputations which are about things that are on the agenda. So we don't have any ability to make any decisions based on public forum, but we can refer things to staff or something like that. So firstly, we have Rachel Shields from the New Brighton Regeneration Program. Good morning, Rachel.
Hello. Put this on.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Kia ora guys. For those that don't know me, I am Rachel. I am from Christchurch NZ, and we are responsible for the New Brighton Regeneration Program. I thought I'd come along to you today just to talk quickly about Aurum Ave. We have obviously been working with council to deliver a project, and Marcy was hoping to be, but she sent me some notes to say what has been delivered on the ground, which I will furiously try and now. So she has asked me to point out that the project has gone really well, has been delivered largely to time and on budget, and the street lights have been installed and are operational. There are 3 poles that have been installed in the space. Path and Teddington chip areas are now complete. The line markings of the car park have been completed at the car park end alongside the Copeland's space. Bike stand has been moved into place at the end of the mall to allow for bike parking. 2 cameras are to be installed, one at the Copeland's end and the other at the mall end, replacing the camera that was previously located on the Westpac building and will be installed as soon as the power connection has been enlivened. These will be managed by the police as part of their CCTV network. Please don't ask me any questions about that. Temporary fencing was taken down on Friday and the path is now open for use. So that's the council side of the project that has been completed. The space will now be handed over to Christchurch NZ through a license to occupy, and we will be running a trial activation program for approximately 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully starting in April. The plan is that we'll be testing a few different activations and a few different events to see what works in the space, what doesn't. We'll also be doing a few on-the-ground surveys to try and capture what people would like to see in the space and what people would like to see in that future Aurum Ave space as well. The activities will include small pop-up activities like bouncy castles, possible giveaways to local businesses, and more formal events like movie nights. We'll be working with local groups like markets and schools, and are really looking forward to delivering this in the community. And that is pretty much my update.
All right. Time for 1.5 questions. Alex and then Joe.
I'll let you go because I've only got feedbacks and questions.
Okay,
Right, Joe.
yeah, it looks wonderful. One thing I've been asked is, can we clean up the area next to Savemut as well?
It is our intention to do this as part of the activations. We obviously need the landowner to be on board with this. We are working with him, and he is somewhat positive about the plans that we have in place.
Okay, is it okay if you don't, the community do?
Again, because it's private property, technically
Okay.
people need his permission. He is open to it, and I know that other people in the community have approached him, for example, for use of the wall. So, but I think it's kind of balancing what everybody wants to do. Obviously, it's a new space, which is quite exciting. So
Yeah.
everybody wants a bit of a piece of it. But yes, we are doing our best.
That'd be wonderful, thank you.
No worries.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
No worries.
Appreciate your time.
Good, thank you. Love it.
Pardon?
Is it a chance for any more questions? Or is that-
No, we're out of time.
You know where to find me.
And now I'm going to David Hillier from Marriott's Road. Right, Mr. Hillier, up to 5 minutes, including questions or
Yeah.
response.
As you can see, I've already given you
Thank you for that.
information.
Very helpful.
Yeah, we were notified by the council back in November about this going to be happening, and the consultation never came back to us because I think it was Courtney forgot to get back to me, so I couldn't really get any submissions at all. And then we knew that the lines were in place. Now, my biggest thing is that there's no actual front door entrance to our property, and I couldn't see why we couldn't move the yellow lines back to 30 metres from the corner, because the council's recommendations is only really 6 metres, and I understand getting those sight lines because I live there anyway and know it's pretty difficult, and there's always been lots of cars parking on there from a business across the road. Now he's moving back to across the road and parking on that side. Biggest problem is if we have any visitors or deliveries like from Countdown or couriers, they have to park on that yellow lines, and they've already said that they're going to do it anyway, even though our entrance is around the back. So that's why I've put that first and foremost is to get rid of those lines up to our entrance, which there's 30 metres of yellow line to that. And then the second thing that I'd like to discuss is about installing humps on Marriott's Ave. Been there for 6 years now, and the amount of cars that roar up there and the amount that go on the right-hand side of the lane is quite dangerous. So I was just trying to propose, and I was going to do this in my consultation and back in November, to look at putting humps there about 5 metres away from the corner just to stop those. There's a lot of idiots that do go up there racing, and if people know that area, they'll know that people do a whole shortcut right through to Bower Ave from Rookwood Ave, but there's also, you know, those off streets, and it's quite dangerous along there. I'm quite surprised that nobody's actually been hit.
Yeah, we'll just wait for Mr. Hillier to finish before we ask questions.
But yeah, other than that, that's my first proposal was to get rid of some of those yellow lines out to our entrance, and if it was enough for just like 2 car parks, I'll be happy with that. But getting them beyond our front door entrance would be even better, and for the neighbours right beside us as well. You know, it just pushes everyone up and up and up and up.
Yeah, but before we go to Joan, and then maybe Celeste, if we've got time, just a process issue. You didn't actually, because you were expecting to hear back from the engineer, you didn't actually get a chance to feed in.
No, that's right.
Process.
No, and after talking to Cindy, she said that there was only one other person that came up front, I think, for it. So, and we felt that because we missed out on it, and next minute seeing the yellow lines there, we're the most hit with parking. And we have enough off-street parking, but it's just for the deliveries and that, because, you know, having to tell them to go onto Marriott's and rah, it's like they're not going to get on there, but, you know, it's for any visitors, and that makes it difficult for them.
Oh, just one more question from Joe, but I think probably what we'll do is just refer it to staff because of the not the right process. I think that's probably very fair enough to refer it back to them and see if we can work with you to get a better outcome. Joe?
Just in relation to Marriott's Road, when we had to choose some projects at the end of last year, that one was down for a complete renewal. So it might be good to actually earmark that.
We can note it in our annual plan submission.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think we're 40 seconds.
Okay. It was actually just, can we make sure as part of the sample advice that we engage with stakeholders that we would start this one? Is that part of the process?
So part of the process would be that we refer it to staff to look into it and respond back to the board, and then from then, depending on what that response is, we'll initiate next steps.
Okay.
Rob? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so our final public forum is Stephen Wood from Spokes. Stephen.
All right, Stephen Wood. I've just got a few things to say on behalf of Spokes Canterbury. We have been doing next slide. We have been doing a few events in the area. We took part in the Santa Parade, which is getting out in the community, and that was good. We worked in with council staff to provide extra bike stands for the Kite Day, which talking to the users, they were very appreciative of not having to hunt around for safe places for the park. Another event that we've had in the centre of town was a workshop where we're inviting people to tell us what they think about cycling, what the needs are for cyclists in Christchurch. So we've got a huge list of things to sort through and talk to council boards about what we think are the most important part of that feedback. So that's a work in progress. The next slide. I noticed that in the transport plan, which council has just debated this week and adopted, there's a little diagram about where they think the cycle network is going to be sometime in the future. And the appealing thing of that is that there's lots of emphasis on local connections and having a finer grain network than just the major cycleways. And so I know that some of those things are routes that can be chipped away at slowly, and I know there's some working on the east, Marine Parade, South Marine Parade through to Bridge Street, places that you can work on, and I believe work is about to start on Murray Hill Road, parts of Murray Hill Road to improve it for cyclists too. So it's about making those local connections. And this last slide is actually a new source of data that you can tell about how things are going for cyclists. As part of the Aotea Bike Challenge, which has been running for several years in the month of February, which is bike more and compete against your workmates or whatever, and so on. It's now got an app where it can log your rides, and it's got a feature that says you can say how you felt riding that bike. Were you comfortable? Were you stressed? And so that feedback is now available as a map, and council staff has got it. And so that's an example of the east side of the city. The green and the light green are comfortable, enjoyable and comfortable. The amber means you're a bit uncomfortable. The red means you're stressed. So what that shows is it's actually the people that are out there biking and where they're feeling comfortable and where they're feeling stressed. So it's well beyond the major cycleway networks. You know, people are using Pages Road, for example. People going along the river don't like that little bit where they've got to go onto New Brighton Road up there, up near Burwood Road, just before Burwood Road. Various places that are really hot spots. I mean, if you go into the city centre or around the Takaha is red as on that map. So it's just a place where you can see what is happening with some people that are out there cycling. just a useful set of information, but it's also that, remember that the people who are still too scared to go out biking because there's not facilities are not on that map. So, there's still a need to think about routes for those people. There is a last slide, but that's the one I've given before about all the different kinds of cyclists. You know, the ones that are road warriors that don't really need to build cycleways for them because they can get by without.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that are interested but concerned or enthused and confident. They're varying levels of support that they need on a bike route. In a council meeting, Kelly asked me about riding up Burwood Road, and on the way home from that, there was some interesting things happening. You know, you've got to duck right because there's someone on the centre line waiting to do a right turn in, not really sure if the person behind them is going to duck into your lane too. No, it's not the sort of thing for your everyday biker. That's all.
All right, are you happy to take a couple of questions? We've got about a minute. Celeste? Yeah, if we have time.
Did you have from your workshop, did you have any feedback that came through specific to our board areas?
One of the jobs we've got is to sort it into board areas. We've got something like 180 bits of feedback. They were on post-it notes, and now it's actually going to be quite a challenge to actually sort them into board areas, but I think that would be quite a useful step. So you can then decide which ones are the important ones or the doable ones. I mean, some of them are not practical, yeah. I mean, we've also got to apply a realism or feasibility filter to them as well. Yep.
Well, thank you very much. That's 5 minutes. So appreciate it very much. And so now we move to deputations by appointment. So we have Phoebe and Catherine, I think, on behalf of the Dellington Residents Association about the Otako Avon roads.
Everyone,
See you here.
I'll start. Thank you for receiving our letter, and start by just saying that the first part of that was to talk about the roads closing, and I see in the report from staff that they're recommending 2 1-month trials. So thank you to staff for making that recommendation, and we also make that recommendation. I think 1 month, we haven't discussed with the other residents what they think of a 1 month. We suggested 3 to 6 months, but I guess we're balancing speed of decision making versus enough time to allow residents to experience a change and see how it feels. So that seems like a balance, an acceptable balance. So we recommend that you also consider this recommendation from staff. And just saying a couple of things that, firstly, that there was not agreement about this from the small community on at Sutton Place. What they do agree on is that they would like better levels of service in the area. It would be enlightening to drive down that road, and rather than thinking that as a red zone road, because I think we align our thinking around it's a red zone road, readjust your thinking that it's a public road. And if you think about James Street and Sutton Place as public roads, and then look at the state of the road, it looks like an abandoned street until you get to Sutton Place. It's a disgrace, quite frankly, and I don't know how it's been allowed to go that long. We've regularly talked to previous, we talked to Phil about it, we've talked to Kelly about it, and there doesn't seem to be previously any willingness to fix it. So we're really glad to see that this is on the agenda now, and we're hoping the road stopping will also kick off something that means that the road actually gets repaired or gets rebuilt properly.
But what's been the reply? It's been raised.
I think broadly I would summarise it as we have a regeneration plan, but we need to figure out what we're doing in that area. It's been caught up in the kind of general Lynn's to council, transfer and governance, and what are we doing in the area, and it might be housing, and we're not quite sure. And I understand that, but also allowing a road to become in that poor repair over a period of 14 years is unacceptable. And so the other part of what we wanted to talk about, I'll let Kath had some words she wanted to say also.
Well, I'm Catherine Ferris and I am a long-time resident of Sutton Place, and I really just want to reiterate all that Phoebe has said, but honestly, over the 14 years, and we have tried and tried to get a decent road, here we are 14 years still having to drive through the red zone, but why leave a residential road in the red zone? And it's the only way in and out for the 18 homes that are there. And obviously we keep saying we've been ratepayers all this time, and as Phoebe said, it's just a dumping ground, it's unkempt, and it's very disappointing how we've watched it decline over the years, and hoping that if what decisions made here, you'll take consider the residents and make it something more or less permanent until that is maintained as a proper residential road, until a decision's made what's going to happen with the area. It's really just feel like saying it's not a fair go, because it's just isn't. And I don't know if any of you've been into Sutton Place and had a look, and like you'd ought to have a look and just think if that was your homes, what would you do about it if it just gets ignored and ignored and ignored some more?
Yeah.
And please have a think about what we can do,
yeah,
to make it a pleasant area, which it was pre-earthquake until that arbitrary line was drawn down and cut a cul-de-sac in half.
And so just to finish, we really appreciated that Kelly and Tess came down when we had a street meeting recently to talk about it. And what's missing in the recommendation is how that feedback loop will happen around the 1 month. So putting some thought into how to engage with residents. I think over time, a street meeting has been our best way to engage with as many residents as possible in an evening. So we'd like to be involved in the process by which you collect that feedback, because we'd like to make sure that residents have a good opportunity to provide feedback as a part of if you make the decision to adopt the recommendation in the book.
That street meeting specifically for Sutton Place. Yep, questions?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming along and representing your street so well. Just in terms of that sort of feedback loop, do you think, given having read the submissions that people have put in, and it seems to be almost a 50-50 split, do you think the onus should be on the council to collate that, or do you think the residents should talk to each other after the trial and then perhaps come together as a group and make a suggestion either way?
I think that's a good idea because it affects everybody, and I think in the beginning, those that worked those that are going to work, because I mean, we're in and out of that every single day. There's no alternate route to go. Those that worked at the south wanted the south, and those that don't go out north. So it was a real 50-50 split. So it would be good to get the best result that.
I think that was regardless of whether council got feedback, I would probably go along and talk to all the residents anyway. So you might as well give them an opportunity to discuss it amongst themselves and provide joint feedback to you. But you might find that again the residents are divided. But we won't know until we've done the trial.
Yeah, and I think it'd be good if it was a kind of a neutral party like the Darrington Residents Association rather than Catherine or somebody.
Sometimes we get better discussion, let's say, if it's us rather than you. Yeah.
But it is important that the upkeep of the red zone, well, a residential road in the red zone, the public street is reflects that.
Yeah,
because it certainly doesn't at the moment.
Right, any further questions? Right, or no further questions. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you.
We will see what we, the council, can do. We'll come to resolutions for this just a little bit later on in the agenda because we have correspondence that's been tabled. So might as well do it like that to make it easy for staff. So the next next deputation we have two people. We have Christine Fisher and Emily Campbell from the Archery Club. So, because we don't have anyone speaking against this, because you're both on the same team, we thought I'd take you as 10-minute slot, including questions for both of you.
Cool, that sounds great. Hi everyone, my name's Emily. I'm obviously a member of Christchurch Archery Club, and I also represent New Zealand in archery, most recently in September last year, where I went to the World Archery Field Championships. So I'm speaking today in support of the Christchurch Archery Club staying in Rawhiti Domain. So a little bit of background, I moved down to Christchurch from Auckland about 18 months ago, and immediately found community and a safe place in Christchurch Archery Club. It's an amazing training ground, being in amongst heaps of other sports and recreation users. I regularly use the club about 4 to 5 days a week in training for World Championships, and it being such a good training ground in terms of the location and the environment really helped in terms of my ability to compete well at that tournament. In my time standing in the field shooting many arrows, I met plenty of passers-by who, a lot of them have young kids who wanted to stop and watch, which is a fantastic part of the club being in the domain. It means we can expose our sport to so many more people. Archery is a super inclusive sport. We have people from the ages of 8 upwards of 90. And Christchurch Archery Club, to the best of my knowledge, is the most active location in New Zealand for para-archery. So that is archery for those who might have disabilities. And the club is set up specifically to support this, in that we have an accessible shooting line, clubhouse and bathroom facilities. And we have coaches who understand these, and we have many groups of para-archers who come through on a regular basis. I really enjoy the club being in Rawhiti Domain, as there are so many people around. There are dog walkers, there are passers-by, there are other sports, and I feel like it's a really great environment for us to be part of the community. In addition to that, we hold a lot of competitions throughout the year, and competitions bring in archers from around the country who also will come and get coffee and lunch during the tournament in the local shops as well, which archers appreciate being so close by. That is pretty much everything that I have. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about why this archery club means so much to me. Not just to me, but to so many other people in the community. When I first got involved in this club just a year ago, I quickly realised it just wasn't about learning to shoot arrows. It's about being part of something special. From day one, I felt welcomed, encouraged and supported, no matter what my skill level. That it's the kind of club we have, a place where everybody, regardless of age, ability, can come and feel they belong. The members here don't just turn up, shoot a few arrows and go home. They give their time and energy to coaching, to helping others improve, and making sure that every new person who walks in the door or on the field feels included. I've seen firsthand how much effort goes into running the club, and I've also seen the impact it has on local people, all local people and those outside the club. Building confidence, creating friendship and providing a space where people can challenge themselves in a supported environment. We recently had an open day, which Joe and Celeste attended at the canopy in the domain.
They hit the target.
Was it?
Did they hit the target?
Yes, they did, totally. It was really, really good. Depends what the target was. And the response from the community was amazing. So many locals came along to give archery a go, and our coaches were flat out the entire time. That day improved what we already know. This club is valued and it is needed. People want to be here. One of the things that makes the club so successful is its location. Being close to the amenities of New Brighton means that it is easy for members to go and get food and other amenities. If we were forced to move, we wouldn't just be losing a venue, we would be breaking up a well-established and close-knit sporting community. And that's not something that can be easily rebuilt anywhere else. So I'm asking for your support in extending our lease. It's not just about keeping a club going, it's about keeping a community together, and everybody wants to support New Brighton community and all its amenities. It's about ensuring that archery remains accessible to everyone who wants to be a part of it, and also para people as well. It's about recognising the value of the club that has already given so much to so many people. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You take some questions if members have any.
Sure.
Alex first and then Yanni.
One of the things you mentioned is about people coming in for tournaments and spending locally. When you guys host your events, I understand that you like to cater it with, suppliers from our area. Do you have some examples of other ways that, the club is spent in the area, I guess, as well? We know how much work you do in terms of the well-being of our community and the presence, and there's no dispute about that. But I think for some of the people, that might help address some other concerns as well.
Okay, it's the attitude and the atmosphere within the club and going out to various grounds. It's not just spending in the community, it's being part of the community and actually drawing so many more people to view the club and to view the facilities at the domain. And it's very, very encouraging, very open environment.
And do you feel that your presence as a club in that space, we as a board know that there are a few safety issues in the domain? I mean, personally, I've seen this, and I feel that the club presence actually helps to deter some of that. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah,
So
totally.
as a young woman, I often train on my own. And I feel that the club being there has helped to, when we are there shooting, any of the people that may be lingering around, leaving rubbish and so on, tend to disperse. But also, like, in terms of just like integrating with the community, when other dog walkers are around, I feel more safe too. So it's kind of a mutual relationship, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yanni and then Greg, and that will probably bring us to the end of the 10 minutes.
Cool. Thank you. It's really cool to hear the journey that you've been on and to hear what you've been up to. I guess my question is, like, just thinking of the future, given how well it's going, a little bit of a concern that the space that we're improving is a bit too small. Has there been any discussion to getting a greater degree of land in terms of the lease?
So I don't think that the space that the club occupies is too small to accommodate the growth that we assume would happen. The Christchurch Archery Club is approximately the same size as many other archery clubs around the country, some of which have far greater membership than we do. So I think for us, in terms of future planning, we are not at all concerned about that.
Greg?
Couple of questions. One is, what's the distance when you're shooting in front of target?
So senior women will shoot up to 70 metres and senior men will shoot up to 90 metres.
And what's the total distance that an arrow could travel?
That's a great question. So typically the safety distance is, so from the shooting line to where we set up the back line is, I think it's 150 metres is the recommended distance by World Archery as a safety zone. Sometimes we extend that out a little bit further, especially if we have lesser experienced archers shooting, maybe shooting 70 metres for the first time. We might
Any board members?
Yeah, exactly. So we're very conscious of safety. So we're always keeping a close eye on who is walking behind the targets. If they're a dog walkers, we will stop, allow them to pass. Or if we see someone duck under the rope, we of course keep a close eye on that. Safety is of utmost importance in archery.
Well, that's enough time for your question, Celeste, if you have one.
actually it was covered, but I just want to say thanks very much for having us along. We're not particularly good, but I really appreciated the way that you approached beginners. And also it was good to see a mix of, I saw there was quite a few younger girls there, which I thought was fantastic. So like, I appreciate the fact that the sport is quite inclusive. So really question for Tommy.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for your deputation. We appreciate it and for answering our questions so clearly.
So thank you very much.
We'll come to the decision a little bit later. We now come to a notice of motion. Police has given notice of motion about North Beach car park. So the advice from staff is that it's covered within business as usual and current operational funding. So we don't have any further staff advice. So if you're still wanting to move this, you can move it, but you can defer it to be up for debate. So
I'll move it.
move.
I think Joe might have been, sorry, is that all right? Yeah.
Moved by Celeste, seconded by Joe. So that's on the table now. So did you just want to outline the reasons for this? And then we may have, other people may wish to speak, but bearing in mind that we have people waiting for some other decisions.
Okay, I'll keep it really quick. As we know, there's quite a lot of pressure on some particular car parks. North Beach car park is one area that we've had a lot of feedback around the fact that there's a number of community facilities using that space, and we just want to make sure that we prioritise access to those facilities. We've got a memorial hall, which is really well used. We've got the surf club, we've also got a local coffee cart. So by putting in or reviewing the parking accessibility for there, we think that we can just make sure that we get the right balance between different uses. So it's pretty straightforward. And obviously we've got some housing going in across the road and some commercial development nearby. So it's just about future-proofing the area.
Right. Oh, does anybody wish to speak against? No. Does anybody have a burning desire to add to the debate? No, or in that case, motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. All right, so moving on to item number 8, which is the correspondence from the South Shore Residents Association. Would someone just like to move that we receive that?
Yep.
Moved by Joe, seconded by Jackie. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. The second item is from the Darlington Residents Association, which is part of what they spoke to. Do we have a motion on this? Because it's really covered. I think we should just add to the motion for the road stopping to include that rather than adding, making a resolution from here. I think it's probably the clearest way of going from that, unless anybody else has any suggestions or if there's any staff advice. I think no.
I agree.
All right, well, that's the staff advice. Okay, so we'll just move that we receive this correspondence.
Yeah, happy to move.
Moved by Kelly, seconded by, I think it was Greg.
Yes.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right, so now, so I think if it's, unless Adam needs to get away, do you need to get away, Adam? No. We will move to I think because we have people waiting for the granting of the lease.
11.
So that's item 11. So item number 11.
Oh, you're doing 11 first.
I thought we were doing 10 first.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 11.
I'll move 10.
Okay, well, let's just backpedal then. Are there going to be any questions about item number 10? Would someone? So moved by Jackie, seconded by Joe.
I'll move 11.
I have a question.
Hold on a second, you're foreshadowing. So you have a question about item number 10?
Yeah.
The gardens?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that off staff?
Who am I asking?
Yeah, do staff.
Oh.
Right, we do have a mover and seconder of Jackie and Joe, so it is on the table, but we can take advice now. Get to the table.
Just curious about why the lease is only for 10 years. We have other leases in today's agenda which are for 33 years.
Right.
So particular reason for that?
Well, that's what we do with community gardens. They tend to be slightly different than sports clubs. You could argue with this one that given its stability and performance, that it could be longer, but I've just gone with the consistent approach.
Yeah.
So just because it's a policy essentially.
Yeah, well, they come and they go a bit. 10 years is quite a long time for a community garden. It hasn't been for this one. Maybe it could have been considered, but in any case, if they're still functioning, we'll do it again.
Yeah, so the garden's happy with 10 years, as far as you're aware?
Well,
We are, they're happy with 10, we're happy with 20,
what-
20 years, so if you wanna up it.
if you want to up
But
it, you know,
nice to deal with it a few times, so can hear 10 years again.
if you would like, if you would like an extra right of renewal, that might, I certainly wouldn't have any objection to that.
What is it? Well, yeah.
That probably could have been.
So we have the substantive is on the table. So, do you have any other further questions?
No, other than,
So do you like to move, or unless you just do it by agreement of the mover and seconder? So would you agree to have it changed to 20 years?
I think it was right of renewal, was it right of renewal?
Yeah, well, it's a 5-year term with one right of renewal. I would suggest that, a compromise might be 2 rights of renewal. Make it 15 years in total.
yeah, I think that's what I was thinking, 15 years.
So how would you word that, Felix?
If you want,
So you change
just amend the
Yeah.
recommendation,
lease period to 15 years, including.
including renewals.
That's it, just 15 years?
Yep, that'd be 3 terms of 5 years,
Okay.
which I think is probably more appropriate in the circumstances. Thank you.
All right, so any further questions? No, all right, thank you, Felix. Well, we have a motion. Would anyone like to speak to that?
I'll speak to it. Yeah, given that, I think most of us have actually been down to the garden, they do amazing work, given their stability, which is outlaid. Here, for all to see, I think that we should give them more certainty. They do amazing work. They really truly affect the lives of people in the community in a positive way. Why not give them 15 years? Yeah, there you go.
Anyone else wish to speak? No, motion now we put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you, Felix. Are you wishing to move
I
item
am
11 and seconded by Celeste? So do we have any questions for staff about this is the archery club? So do we have any further questions? Is this for staff? So Felix and Kim?
Sam and Kim.
Right in.
Close then.
You're right.
All right. Danny's question.
Thank you for the work you've done on this in the report. Just noted that in the report, it says that in the reserve management plan, there's just over 300 metres that's available for archery. But in the recommendation, it's only recommending the 253 square metres. So I was just wondering, sort of to the question that I asked the club, I accept that they don't need extra space at the moment. But I'm just trying to understand what the difference was in the two sizes that were set aside versus the one that's proposed in the list.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Good eye for detail there. So at the time of writing the management plan for the reserve, it was thought that the club may wish to expand at some time in the future. So the management plan for the reserve allows for up to this 307 metres. The current building on site is the 253 square metres. And the club in this application and the conversations I've had with them are indicating that that size that they have now really works well for them. And we know there was a previous application by the prior committee who wanted to go for a larger site. But the club has indicated that they're not viable at that size, that it would be cost prohibitive for them to try and do a larger building. So they're actually happy with the status quo that they have on the reserve now and think that the club's got quite a bit of growth within that area that they currently have allocated as well.
And then just a final question from me is, it's really cool to hear how successful they're going. Is there anything else that we could do as a council to support them other than the lease? Has there been any discussions about other things that we should be mindful of?
We have a new booking system that hopefully the Rec and Sport team have come and spoken to many boards or will soon. So the new booking system being rolled out will enable the club and other clubs to book all their times at the beginning of the year or beginning of the season, depending on the sport. So for archery, that means at the start of each calendar year, they can book in the times that I've popped in the report for their training sessions. They can also book in all their tournaments throughout the year as well. And that means that they'll have the that space allocated to them for those times. From a council perspective, we didn't want to put any physical barriers on the park or fence archery in, because that would mean that when archery is not on site, other groups, dog walkers, other people can't pass through that space anymore either. So we'd like the space to be as community oriented as it can be. So we actually see this as a win-win. The occupation of the park makes the park safer, as has already been explained. And the space is still there also for other activities to book in if there's special as well.
Right, thank you.
Thanks. Given that the lease is for 33 years, the first question is that normal for a sports club? And the second question is 33 years is a long time. It's quite foreseeable given the current attitude of the club that they are unlikely to expand. If they were to build a bigger building at some stage in the next sort of 30 years or so, would they be stuck with the existing footprint, and could they move it?
Yep, good question. So the 33 years is our standard timeframe for the Reserves Act allocation of a lease. That's broken into 3 terms of 11 years. And although it's stated as a right of renewal, council is able to review the club's performance and the occupation of that site every time that changes over. So after 11 years, we'll be looking at have they paid their fees each year? Have they been a good tenant? Have they got on well with the other groups that use the park? And we'll make an assessment if we still want them on the park or not. So there's that opportunity for us to go, no, that's enough, like has happened in the past. Sorry, the second part of the question, is there room for them to expand? The building has a lifetime, obviously, of being viable, and as it stands at the moment, it looks to be quite solid and in quite good state of maintenance. The site does not necessarily mean that that's the only space on the reserve that they could use. If the club were to grow and it was 20 years down the track from now, they would just need to come back to us with a new application so that we can assess it on its own merits. Yep.
Right.
I know the previous application that was turned down a few years ago was a significantly larger building that was up to like 700 square metres. There was car parking issues and there was also a bunch of trees that would have required removal as well. So there was many factors there why that got turned down. Yep.
All right, thank you. Well, in that case, we will now now move to debate. So as the mover, you're able to open it.
So, yeah, hey, listen, I just think it's really important that we're promoting inclusive spaces across our board area that really connects communities. I would like to thank the club and Graham for the work that they've done over the past few years to shift that relationship between the club and community. It is a really hard job to change perception, and I think the amount of work that the club has put in has really paid off and it has really benefited our community. I'm really proud that we've got this club here in our ward. I'm even prouder to be moving this motion to secure this. I visited the club a wee while ago and Graham gave me a wee play and I did actually hit the targets, Jones. And I heard about so many heartwarming stories about people that wouldn't have been able to have a space to connect, to socialise, to get involved with sport and recreation if it weren't for that club. And there are many, many locals that have benefited from that. So I'd just like to say thank you. The other reason why I'm moving this motion is we've heard, and I've mentioned it already today, about concerns around safety in Thompson, in the Rafferty domain as well. And we know that when we've got a club that has a presence and we've got people moving between parts of the park, it really does improve the safety in Rafferty domain. So that's the other reason why I'm also moving that. But yeah, I just once again like to thank the team who's been working with the club as well throughout this process for the consultation with the community. And I'm really happy to be moving this motion.
All right, Kelly.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I'm actually really happy to support this as well. Safety's never been an issue with this club. They have an impeccable safety record. I'm happy to support it. The club seems unrecognisable in attitude and community engagement from the group that came to us 4 years ago. The whole thing went through a hearings panel process. The hearings panel recommended that the lease not be renewed. Obviously, they've been through looking at alternative sites, but really, I guess their home was here. And now that they have turned around, and congratulations to Graham and the committee who have changed the whole attitude of the club. They're much more open to engagement with the community, attracting younger members. And the fact that they actually have, people have only been in the club a year or a couple of years come to speak on behalf of the club and how transformational it's been for them is a really, really encouraging sign. At the end of the day, we want to enable this. I agree with Alex, having that sort of open area where people can pass through is really good. I think they'll make a really big contribution or continue to make a big contribution to the community. And I'm just so thrilled that they have actually changed somewhat, because I remember when I was sitting there a few years ago, my recommendation was that they find somebody to do better PR, and they've done that. And I think it's going to be a good result. So yeah, happy to support it.
Right. Anyone else wish to speak? No. Well, you do.
I was just going to keep it short because I think all the key points have been covered. I just want to acknowledge all the people that have made submissions and also the club for all their work and sort of bringing this of staff as well. I actually think this is a really positive thing for the domain, and it's good to have this space itself be so well utilised with so many different clubs, and I think this will be a great addition. So I'm looking forward to supporting it today.
All right, well, with that, the motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. There we go. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Congratulations for all the work that you've put in. And it's been a long run, I know, but yeah, thank you very much. So we'll just have a brief adjournment of the meeting. We can catch our breath. Then we'll come back to the wastewater treatment plant briefing. I'm going to move actually to item number 14, which is the stopping of selecting roads in the Waitai Avon corridor. A number of staff are down to come and speak to us on this. So Dave and team, if you'd like to join us at the end of the table.
Do you want me to?
I think it might just be me.
Okay.
Phone a friend if you need.
Yeah.
All right. Go to Dave. If there's anything you'd like to draw our attention to, please do, and then we might have some questions.
Yeah, I think probably the only things to draw your attention to in the report are that we went out and consulted on a suite of road stoppings. And by and large, we have recommended that those are approved. The one that did tend to be fairly unpopular was F, which was the Broomfield Terrace. We understood when we went out that there was quite a lot of support for that stopping. But as it turned out through the consultation, there was more support not to stop it and to keep it open. So we've recommended that. Probably the other one to note is the Stour Brooker. The proposal around that was quite popular, but there were concerns raised around access to Denell Sports Park, as well as being able to use those roads until the new road that's associated with the fringe housing in that area was built. And so we've recommended that that's controlled by gate access and remains open during the day, and then we just close it at night to stop the antisocial behaviour. And the last one I would just note is obviously agree with all the comments that were made by the residents of Sutton Place and the Darlington Residents Association. The maintenance on that road is unacceptable, along with the maintenance of the other roads that are still open in the red zone. I've had some discussions with the transport team and uncovered that there's no level of service at all on roads that remain open in the red zones. They don't have any maintenance money whatsoever. So any maintenance that happens on roads is basically our parks team going through and maybe running the lawnmower over the curb and channel. Just because the weeds have got too long, but there's no transport funding at all allocated to any of those roads. So it's not just the Sutton Place, the roads around Sutton Place, it's also things like Brooker and Stour and any other open road in the red zone. And I think that needs to change, but that wasn't part of this report because it will
note that for our annual plan submission.
Yeah, and we're having some internal discussions with those guys too. I don't know how that situation occurred, but that seems to be the reality of it.
And as for the proposed amendment, just to add a need for a street meeting.
Yeah, totally fine. Yeah, happy to do that.
So if we can just add to that final one to.
Has it been moved?
No, it hasn't, but we can just make this a recommendation.
Yeah.
That because it is effectively a staff recommendation that that staff organise a street meeting with residents to discuss the outcome of the trial.
In local council.
So I'm sure that local council will be invited. Yeah. So, all right. Do you have anything else you want to draw attention to?
No, other than we might try and do some of this under the traffic bylaw to get it going, or to get some of them stopped in advance of the formal stopping occurring, where there are roads that don't have any particular people accessing, such as the back of Chardale.
All right. Any questions? Joe?
Yeah, just in regards to Brooker and Stour, did you consider putting in a trial before closing those?
Well, the closing, it kind of is a trial in a way. The closing is only going to be in night time, and nothing good happens in the red zone at night. So I suppose we could consider that a trial. We can always take the gate out if it looks out really badly, but yeah, so it'll be staged. It'll be staggered.
Okay, I'm just thinking about if residents all of a sudden thought, no, we don't like it like this, it can be reversed.
Yep, legally stopping a road doesn't mean that it has to be closed. So there's other roads in the red zone that are legally stopped that continue to be open. So if we stopped it, put the gate in, and there's a huge hullabaloo, we could potentially take the gate back out and continue to have it as a road.
Kelly and then Celeste.
Yeah, Dave, thank you. Just
Great, sorry.
in terms of,
Released?
Brooker,
Yeah.
Brooker at New Brighton Road be completely blocked off? Or is that where a proposed gate?
That would be where the gate would be, yeah.
Okay, and so, how reliable do you think the gate will be in terms of, will it be shut? Because, Greg and I go out to community watch, and the car parks up here in New Brighton are supposed to be locked each night at 9 o'clock. And we've never seen them at that time. So who actually does that work?
There is a contractor who goes around and does all the gate openings and closings. So we would get them onto that schedule. It's tricky, obviously, because every gate is supposed to be shut at the same time all around the city. But we can't do that. So we go onto that schedule. Also, our team is quite motivated to have that closed because it saves them a lot of work picking up illegal dumping. So if that didn't work out, I imagine someone from our team would just do it themselves. Because 5 minutes closing a gate's better than an hour cleaning up rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on Sutton Place, so the proposed new road, which see on the plans, will that be a decision for the OARC current entity, that phase one entity that's taking care of the government's decisions in the short term?
Yeah, well, so that road is part of the region plan and services the fringe housing. We've been holding off until we've had a co-governance group, I suppose, that would make decisions on that. So yeah, that would go to them.
How soon would it come to them, given what the Dalton Residents Association have put in their dictation? Is it likely to be early or down the track?
No,
whose budget would that be?
So we're quite keen to get it going. So we want to take it sooner rather than later. We haven't quite firmed up exactly how that would work, but odds are it would be a third party that would be doing that. And so we'd be probably, my guess, without presupposing what happens, is that we'd do some sort of expressions of interest type process, and then take the results of that to COGOV.
Yeah. So would it be under transport, or would it be under the budgets of the ORAC paying for that?
Probably still to be determined. It wouldn't be parks, but it would either be transport or some sort of body corporate type arrangement with the housing, would be my guess.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. And then just the last question, there's no budget for road maintenance, no transport budget. So how will that be resolved? How to get budget for it, or could it come under return budgets?
I'm trying to resolve it internally with the transport team, so I'm having those discussions, but I think a bit of political lobbying is always a good thing. It'd be interesting to know how that situation occurred, how we were sort of able to just walk away and say, no, we're not maintaining roads that people are still using. I don't really understand that.
Could you give a ballpark figure for what, just a hazard a guess at what budget might be required to maintain those?
It's getting smaller the more we close, but I would say to maintain all the ones that are currently not being maintained, 20,000 a year, something like that.
I think that's achievable. Thank you.
Right, Greg and then Celeste.
Just clarifying, with Brooker Ave being closed at night, it will still be a through road fully during the day.
Yeah, correct.
And with the fringe housing, it'll be the same sort of time frame, trying to do off the corner of Brooker Ave, that fringe housing road, as well as the one by Sutton Place.
Yeah, I suspect I'm sort of getting a little bit ahead of COGOV, I suppose, at the moment, but I suspect we want to try and do all those fringe housing developments in one go. Or we might split them up into a couple of groups because they won't be delivered. My guess is they won't be delivered by council, in which case all we've got to do is keep an eye on them. We don't have to actually run them. So then they can happen a bit quicker than if we had to try and resource them ourselves.
And with we're a lot of the through the red zone where there's streets to the side of them, where it's stopped on those streets is quite a long way back. So Priory Close, for instance, you get a whole car width in there. And so that becomes a space where there's a lot more real estate to do burnouts and things on. is there the option to bring forward those things? I know we've mentioned it before, but to bring them forward and the same at the end where Stour Drive can be blocked, have it right on that corner, or even narrow across that corner to narrow those sport spaces, so there isn't the same facility to do that.
Yeah, that is our team's preference. The reason we haven't done it, so we have moved some of those so there isn't that gap. The reason we haven't done it everywhere is that people like to park there. So sometimes if we feel there's sort of yellow lines everywhere apart from that little spot, then we'll leave it. But it is a pain for us because that is where people dump their rubbish. So yeah, over time we're moving those back where we can, but sometimes we leave them.
Celeste?
And how many roads are we talking about when you say they're not being maintained?
Well, the answer I got back was all of them, but I imagine that the big ones are still getting maintained, otherwise they sort of look the same as the small ones. So New Brighton Road must be getting some level of maintenance. So I think it would be, it's probably 5 or 6 of them that would fall into that category.
Yeah. I guess we can get a copy of that. So is that it possible to get a copy?
Yep, I could be able to track down a list, yeah, just through Cindy. Because the problem, I mean, the maintenance is one thing, the bigger problem is doesn't seem to be any renewals either, so they get more and more potholy.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm just thinking Pratt Street's one of those, isn't it? For the red zone with the potholes everywhere in the maintenance. I don't think it gets any. Just talking about the ones that are going to get gated off. Are Ben's going to have keys for those gates?
They do have red zone keys, yeah.
They do?
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, all the emergency services have got red zone keys. If they don't, they've all got bolt cutters and they just cut our locks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any further questions? No, all right then, would someone like to move that motion? Moved by Kelly, seconded by Jackie. Right, any debate? No debate, all right, well, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
So now we'll move back to the wastewater treatment plant briefing. So Adam and team, if you'd like to join us. Thanks.
Greetings, thank you very much for having me as usual.
Yeah. Good to have you. Yep. You'd like to, as usual, rip through your presentation and just give me a look when you want to take questions.
So is that set up to present, sorry?
Just give me one second. Of it. Oh. There you go. Sorry.
All good. Thank you very much, Cindy. So yeah, Adam Tooze here, Manager of Operations of the treatment plant, just providing the monthly update on where we're up to with the Christchurch wastewater treatment plant. Click the right button. As per usual, in scope, the operation, the interim solution, what we're doing about the odours and what we're undertaking on the midges. Out of scope is the findings of the independent review and the status of permanent solution, which have come in separate updates. What I propose to run through tonight is where are we currently sitting odour-wise. You're aware from the newsletter that went out, we're also undertaking some essential repairs on the temporary activated sludge plant. I'll be able to provide an update on that. Where the ponds are up to, both in the aerator status and current pond health, update on the midge control, and also just like to add up, it's topical, it's the ocean outfall maintenance update, where we're up to with the odour production trials and where we're up to with the web pages. So, as usual, we're continuing to monitor odour both on site and in the community sites. All that information is regularly updated to the web page. Just wanted to highlight, so we are taking the temporary activated sludge plant down to 50% capacity. And as expected, that's had a slight increase in odour being generated from the oxidation ponds. So normally I don't show the internal monitoring of what we do, but I thought it's relevant because it is detecting stuff. So what you see up on the screen there is the results from the hydrogen sulfide meter, which is located in the oxidation ponds. And as you can see, between the 16th and 23rd of Feb, it is picking up hydrogen sulfide production. So it is occurring as we expected it to. But as you can see there, the limits 0.03 parts per million, and we're way below that. Also just like to take the opportunity to highlight the difference between last summer when it was very hot and dry and this summer where it was very wet and a bit cooler. On the left-hand side there from 2024 is the last week of January, February, where we did see those intermittent spikes in odour. On the right-hand side, from the 23rd of Feb to the 2nd of March, so not exactly the same week, but close enough, you can see that the odour detection in the community of the sites is a lot less all the way through, and that's mainly indicative of the weather. But that also takes into account the fact that our treatment plant is running at half capacity as well. So the newsletter that went out, I'd just like to sort of dive into a little bit of detail. So what went out on the newsletter is very, very high level. Just sort of provide a little bit more explanation and detail for you. So the newsletter went out advising essential repair works required on the temporary activated sludge plant. What we have done is we've taken off one of the two clarifiers, has been taken offline to repair the leaks. This is enabling work to assist us with dewatering of the site around Clarifier 4 so that we can fully drain and fully empty that tank next summer. So on the newsletter that went out on the left, you can see the aerial image where the tank on the left has dropped slightly, so you can see those pipes sticking out. That just gives an indication of how much we have dropped the tank. We have not dropped it much, we've only dropped it by about ½ a metre to enable us to take these repairs on. The repairs that we need to do at Clarifier 4, which is the other tank, is a full empty. So we're trying to repair the leaks on Clarifier 3 to enable us to do a full dewater on Clarifier 4 next summer. So Clarifier 3 is that big black tank on the left. That's the one that we're currently working on. And the one at the bottom is Clarifier number 4, which is where we're going to empty the tank fully and take that centre bearing off. So just for a bit of background, how does a clarifier work? So number one, the flow comes up through a pipe into the centre column there, where it's a bit darker. Point 2 is then the flow makes its way from the centre column 25 metres away to the outer edge. As the flow goes across, it slows down, it allows all the sludge to settle to the bottom of the tank. When that flow's got to the edge at number 3, it overtops that ring and falls into this outer ring that runs all the way around the clarifier. And the entire ring has got a slight slope on it, so it gathers all the flow from all the way around to one point where it then takes out the ring and takes it back to the treatment process. The sludge is sucked out to the bottom of the pipe via the rotating pipe work, which obviously you can't see. So that's how the tank works. So that outer channel is critical for conveying the wastewater treatment from the clarifier through to the next treatment stage. What does that actually look like? So the flow from the tank is that structure at the top left where you've got a bit of a hole and then sort of like a hexagonal weir type arrangement. So that's where it normally comes out. The big bulkhead is what we've put on the right to hold the flow back, because otherwise flow will try to come back in from the other clarifier. And at the bottom there, it's normally about 6 inches of water. So you can see we've isolated, drained it, taken all the flow out of it. So we drain it, we get it empty. We then send the team in, who then get in there literally with squeegees, and they squeegee the water around. We're trying to undertake concrete repairs, so it all needs to be clean and tidy in order for us to be able to do the inspection and the maintenance work on that. And with all the rain recently, we've had to go through and take the water out far more than we'd normally expect. What they then do is they take a high pressure water blaster and clean. So that first photograph on the left, if you look down the centre, it's about 3 or 4 centimetres wide. That's the joints. So you've got a great big lump of concrete on the left, you've got concrete on the right, and that strip down the middle is what the joint is. That's what's been given way to allow to flow out. So that photograph on the left is stood there looking at it. The photograph in the middle is then stood leaning over the edge and looking down into the channel. And then the photograph on the right is where someone's in the channel taking a look out. And if you actually have a look about halfway down, you can see a glimmer of sunlight all the way through, which shows that joint's separated. So that's the leaks that we're trying to stop. What I have done is I've got an update from today to say they've done the vast majority of the repairs and they're hoping to have the tank back online by this Friday. And I've sent some photographs to Cindy and she'll send them around afterwards. When we do this, it is a biological process. It always does have a bit of an upset. So that is an aerial image of Clarifier 4. And as you go through the rejigging process of shutting it down to 50%, it does get a little bit unsettled. So as you can see there, you can just see sort of some pillowing of the sludge blanket where it's coming up, and then that's being carried over to the next stage, which is not what we want. However, I've been assured by my process engineer that that was a bit of a rarity. He was quite excited to get the photograph because it shows when it has its struggles, and we'll also send another photograph through of when it's behaving normally. We also took the opportunity with the same drone to have a look at our oxidation ponds to see how they are doing. So as you can see, the flow comes into that tank on the bottom left. All those little white speckles are seagulls. And then you can see how that sort of murkiness makes its way through the ponds and the effect that the aerators have had. So with this new drone that we're using, it allows us to assess and visualize how the flows are doing. We have tried it previously with GPS and tennis balls, but it's not quite worked as well as we had hoped. So we found that this is working quite well. So this is new, we're exploring, we're just working with it. The oxidation ponds, the aerator status. Past month hasn't been too bad. The disc aerators, as you can see there, were only off for a short duration due to reactive work. However, unfortunately, I can report that one of them fell over yesterday as well. So disc aerator 5 is currently out of action at the moment as well. Slightly better story on the vertical aerators. Vertical aerator number 8, as you can see, intermittent issues going forward. However, the contractor now believes they've got to the bottom of it. They've replaced the phase motor inverter or something, but it assured me that that should have fixed it and it should be okay from now on. Another update that we can do is, if you remember in the early days after the fire in December 21, January 22, we installed a couple of the old shaft aerators, apologies for my spelling, which are located in the bottom left-hand side with a photograph in the bottom left showing one of the two. What we are doing is we are replacing those two old ones. So we've direct appointed Aeris, the supplier of the aerators on our temporary activated sludge plant, which have worked very, very well without fault. So we've purchased one of their disc aerators, which you can see there on the left. We are not getting another one of the disc aerators that's been provided by the supplier on the oxidation ponds. So the one on the left is the one that's going to be arriving shortly. One of the civil contractors that we worked with, because obviously this thing has to be mounted to the ground, they came, as soon as we called them, came, had a chat, went out on site, had a walk, and we've appointed them to do the work. And you can see they've installed those 3 mounting points so that the disc aerator can be arrive and installed later this week. 12th of March, that new aerator will be going in and it should be working well for us, hopefully. Pond health overall, it is starting to reduce as a consequence of the temporary activated sludge plant. So by reducing the capacity, more load is passed to the ponds, and over time that is just gradually having an effect. So the top 2 photographs, normally it's sort of a brighter, lighter green, and you can just see it's sort of just got a slight hint of sort of murkiness, which is indicative of the extra load that's going through to it. And you can't really see it particularly well on the bottom 2 photographs, maybe the one on the right. Again, you can just see that murkiness sort of working its way across the bottom half of the pond. Moving on to the midges, natural predation control. You're aware that we target midges at the various stages of the life cycle. One of those is to encourage the amount of bird life and to try to encourage it to stay around the pond as much as possible. This is a recommendation from Council's ornithologist. We had one structure similar to that, so the birds loved it, so we just copy and paste what the birds love. And there you go. So I've installed some of those. You may have seen them as you drive past. I'm led to believe by the ornithologist, as the birds discover them more, they will use them more, apparently. So don't be scared if you don't see a lot of birds at the start. Apparently, that's his official advice. I touched on this last time. We had a review of our midge control program, and the recommendation was to create a midge and odor project. So now that we've been through that a little bit more, I'm able to provide a few more details. So what we're proposing to do is to install 6 stations, which significantly increases the amount of information which staff can have on which to make more informed decisions on. So appreciate this is a CAD drawing. This has been put together by my staff. It's not been put together by a consultant. Just to try and give an idea of scale, that's the size of a ute. So you've got a 5 metre by 5 metre pad with a palisade fence around the outside. with the fence line extended slightly into the water, a couple of steps down, and then onto a jetty that goes out into the water. So we're proposing to put 6 of these stations around the pond. We're proposing to put hydrogen sulfide vectors on there to replicate to replace the ones that are on the bank, and also to put a weather station in there, so we've got more granular information. On the jetty itself, we're also proposing to put those instrumentation on, which will be linked back to our SCADA communication system, so that we have real-time real information on which to make real decisions as much as possible. So dissolved oxygen gives an indication of the ponds are how healthy they are. Temperature is good to know. pH, orthophosphate, ammonia, chlorophyll, that's the algae. Suspended solids also gives an indication of the algae and how heavily loaded the ponds are. And then just conductivity and also the water level. Water level is more from an operational point of view because the ponds are our buffering for storm capacity. So we've got that at the moment. We're engaging the contractors that have got panel rates for us through the panel. So we've got fixed rates for that. Ordering the long lead items at the moment. So the intention is to try and get that in for October next year, which is the start of the mid-season. The difficulty is that these sites are quite a long way away, so it's trying to get the power and the communications to and from these stations, which is the bit that's proving interesting at the moment. But please be assured there's possible on that. The odour products trial, so stage 3. So on the left, you see the stage 2. So this is where we're using suppliers products to see if we can apply it to the pond to reduce the hydrogen sulfide generation from there. On the left, there is a 20-litre sample trial that we did a number of months ago. Stage 3 will be the next stage where we are sampling 1,000 litres. So we take 1,000 litres of the stuff that's going into the ponds across each of the suppliers, put the product in and see how it performs. We're also working with the University of Canterbury on that, and we're going to send some letters out to suppliers by mid-March. So hopefully next week to get that trial going by the end of March. Also, just letting you give us a bit of an insight into the activities that we do. All the effluent from the Christchurch wastewater treatment plant goes to the ocean, through the ponds, ocean outfall pump station, which comes underneath the estuary, underneath New Brighton, and then it goes up to 3.5 kilometres out to sea. The final 2 kilometres of that outfall is where we've got a load of diffusers on, which discharge the effluent safely to the environment. So last week, the ocean outfall inspection and partial cleaning of those diffusers was undertaken, and we also managed to get some of those photographs for the first time, as opposed to just taking the contractor's word and written reports from it. So the picture on the bottom right, you can see there's a buoy on the right, but that little black thing just below between us and the boat is the diver's head. So, we like sending divers into stuff to inspect our stuff. Websites update, just a bit of a personal apology for me on this one. We've not updated it as much as we would like. It's been a very busy getting back into it. Obviously, over the Christmas period, a lot of contracts come on board, a lot of activities has been going on. And we've been working very heavily on that pitch and node control monitoring project to get that out as a priority. So now that we're in that, we can provide a better update on that specific project on the website going forward. And that's it from me. I've also sent through pictures to Cindy. The number of midges from the ponds has dropped significantly. That's been picked up by Rhodomartin, and it's also mirrored in the number of complaints that's been coming through. So that's good for the moment. However, bearing in mind that the mid-season does carry on until the end of March, mid-April, so we're not held to watch that.
First question from Celeste and then from Yanni. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I've had it.
Oh, and Joe? Yep, all right.
So thank you for what you've been doing. I understand you're doing a huge amount of work about space, but to pick this up so quickly and doing this kind of work in such a space, that's absolutely critical. Is it possible to get, we've got some images, Cindy, will there be some key messages we can share?
Yes, so I was emailing Rose before, so I'm intending to send an update out on the temporary repairs as well.
Yeah.
So that's work in progress. Tie it in with the photographs that I've just taken as well. And we can give an update on those images, yes.
That'd be amazing. And kind of in the future update, do you think it might be possible to invite along Andrew?
Our ornithologist.
Yes.
I can ask. No promises, but I can certainly ask.
Yeah, it'd be great to hear from them, and I'm quite interested in those fences that have been put up. It sounds like an interesting approach, which I support.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. I just had two questions. One was with the introduction of the bird perching, one of the complaints I've had from residents has been the birds.
Yes.
So is there any monitoring of what's happening in terms of bird behaviour?
No, that'll be a question I have to ask to Andrew, but his recommendation was if you build the perches that the birds use more often, they'll be tempted to stay there rather than move off into the adjacent areas. It's effectively just mirroring what we're doing with all the native vegetation planting, which is to create the perfect habitat at the ponds to try to encourage them to stay there.
So if we could just get a little bit more information about how we're monitoring that, that would be really cool.
I'll pass that to Andrew, but
I just want to clarify, what's the complaint about the birds?
Because the midges attract a lot of birds, and the birds actually then go onto the people's properties where the midges are. So, great to get the midges and birds more contained on the pond area rather than coming over to the neighbours. I don't know enough about bird behaviour.
No, I don't either. I'm learning.
But it just would be good to understand. It's great that we're doing a lot of monitoring of midges, but also be great to understand the impact of the birds on the rest of the like, if we're seeing a reduction with the perching, for example.
if I could leave the questions to Andrew.
Yeah, no.
But certainly ask him the question, yeah.
And then the second question I had was, so the midge and odour control project.
Yes.
So that's really cool, and that's kind of something I've been asking for quite a while since the fire. So we're basically getting more real-time information around the odour.
Operational data, yes.
So will that be able to be made public? Like how frequent would we be able to update the community over what was happening in terms of those different categories that you showed?
Can I get back to you on that one? We tend not to release that information live due to errors in the process and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Reason why we haven't done it previously, and I'll have to work out what those are and get back to you on that one.
Could we also then get, depending on what the response is, like get some understanding if there were other things that we could put in place to get more public information to help people understand what's happening?
I can certainly work with Rose on that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Okay, I'm going right off on a tangent here.
Uh-oh.
Is there anything in place for the ponds for the 30th of March? To have good air quality and no rubbish around?
Sorry, you lost me there. Sorry, what's the reference to 30th of March?
The Round the Bays run is going to go right through the poo ponds.
Oh, right.
So I'm just like, there'll be a lot of people running through there.
We will just be doing as much as we can, as we are doing all the time. There's nothing extra we can do to try and guarantee any improvement on the day, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
We've just got all of our sources as working as hard as possible to controls.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Greg?
Just for the monitoring sites for the midges and things,
yes.
Just hoping one of the things to consider, obviously, rather than run a cable across all different sites, that solar would be used, or maybe Wi-Fi or cell reception as an option.
According to my electrical specialists, because of the number of instrumentation that we've got, solar is not preferred due to reliability, particularly on the communication, the dropouts and the power availability on it. It tends to cause a lot more problems, apparently. I can get back to you with a formal response, but
it's already been considered as the main.
It was considered for a couple of sites due to the remote access and the distance we would have to run the power cables. However, that's what my initial impression was, but because we have got a number of the old midge monitoring stations which did use solar, but they were very manumatic. So it's a solar panel to a light. We shone the light onto a card with sticky paper, and then my engineers had to go around every 3 days to go and get it. This is far more update and live information.
All right, cool. Any further questions?
See you next month.
No, well, yeah, thank you very much, Adam. And,
okay, no, thank you very much, please.
For all your work, thank you. So would someone like to move that we receive that? Moved by Celeste, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And so the next item is the Cuthbert Green Energy Softball new build application. We've got Caitlin and Kim. Is there anything that you would like to draw our attention to?
I would like to introduce our latest or newest team member, Caitlin Alley, who you've probably not met before. She's very talented and very capable, and you may be seeing her again in future projects.
Since I joined the Parks Planning team in October last year, so this is my first time meeting most of you, some I do know, but lovely to be here.
Well, cool. I hope we make a good impression.
You already have.
Oh, good.
So I guess with Canterbury Softball, we'd just like to emphasise that the association in our eyes is fantastic. They work really hard. They're doing amazing things as a community. They've got over 300 teams in the Canterbury area, and I think we looked up today, got 39 representatives onto the New Zealand arena. So they're doing great stuff, and we fully support this proposal to demolish the old dilapidated garage and install a new and fantastic looking training facility.
Cool. Do we have any questions? So we're foreshadowing a vote by Joe and seconded by Jackie. Do you have a question, Yanni?
Yeah, I just wondered if there'd been any discussions with Canterbury Softball about recognising the work of Cheryl Kemp over the years. Has there been any discussion about naming buildings or?
I'm not sure. Like it's something that's, but it's not directly relevant to what we're being asked to sign on, Yanni.
Right. So, but that would be a matter for them if they wish to name the building, or.
It's a really good question, actually. She's doing amazing work there. It might sit more with the local recreation advisor, perhaps with Jackie Miller. But we can certainly liaise with her and give her a heads up. And see if there's any intention there to name it. I'm not sure, it hasn't come up in our discussion.
That they might not want to do that, but just thought, I guess just understanding if there was a proposal to do something like that, that we would, a barrier of obstacle in terms of the decision making.
Yeah, let's hope not. Right, if that comes to us, so we can discuss it then. Greg.
Do you know if there's been any discussions with football as a potential indoor training facility for winter as well?
Yes, so we had some engagement with them and they have indicated that if they could, they would use it.
Great. Any further questions? No. So we have a mover in Joe and a seconder in Jackie. Do you wish to speak to it at all? No. Okay, motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And now here, Robert, to talk about the lights on Cuthbert's Green. Is there anything you'd like to draw our attention to in the report?
Yeah, I will mention that it was part of the Avon Park project, which has already been through the board, and we've discussed and been out to site. As you know, this forms part of that particular agreement with the football club to relocate them to Cuthbert's Green. The other massive advantage, which I will put forward, is that it doesn't cost the ratepayers anything to do this lighting. It's coming out of the craft fund. Yeah, there's a big upside for the club.
All right, any questions? Yanni.
Just had two questions. One was, we bought land in this vicinity and we were going to have a big master plan for a sports hub or something. So we've done strategic land purchases. I'm just trying to understand where this fits into the bigger picture of the development of this site and whether this location is the best location, given this is like as close to residential as you can be versus somewhere else. So I guess the question is there a master plan that's been done for the site? If so, how does this fit with it? If not, what's happening with that master plan?
You're referring to the master plan for Cuthbert's Green?
Yeah, well, we bought, if you look at the map, we bought the properties down Cooney's Road, and there's a whole bunch of vacant sites. There's a vacant section and some housing that I think still used as residential.
So just in terms of the engagement and how we sort of come to this, as being the optimal sort of decision. So we'd approached Mainland Football initially and sort of spoken to them about what their long-term plans were. And then also Coastal Spirit Football Club. And they were pretty adamant that that is the particular field that they felt they would get the most benefit out of. So that's how we landed on the decision to use that field. I'm not sure how it fits into the long-term plan. We've sort of left that on the clubs and assumed that, if we're relocating them from Avon Park to this particular venue, that is what they perceive to be the optimum space.
Did you have any discussions about QE2?
I don't think it came up, to be fair. No, it didn't. It was only Cuthbert's Green. Just due to the fact that it was Coastal Spirit Football Club and that the main hub is Cuthbert's Green, so that was the field that they wanted to sort of optimise for training. As I believe there's some quite high level teams that practice and train there as well, and they just felt that that's where they needed this or that the lighting would be best served in this space. So, yeah.
And do you know there's no plan for an artificial here, or I don't know when we're making decisions in the council or board around the artificials, but it seems to me like that's something that a lot of the sports clubs are asking.
Potentially, I wouldn't be able to answer that accurately now, but it kind of seems you've got great lighting. It'd be good to have one of those, wouldn't it?
That's what I worry about. Yeah. If we do the lights here,
then
we do the artificial, and we pay money for the lights or the artificial.
Yeah,
but we don't know what the big plan is because we just know stuff's happening in that Poonal line. If you look at the comments around the Poonal line, a lot of people were concerned that we do something in the east.
I wouldn't be able to comment on that. That's, as I say, it's because the scope is originally part of Avon Park, and we've sort of kept that quite localised. But we could find out.
I do think that, I'm not wanting to undermine this particular thing, but it does seem like those are a bunch of valid questions that need to be addressed.
I guess the thing is, if you were going to put like lights in, if you were doing a bigger space, you might put more lights in at the same time to get better value as well. But I don't know if we've got time to. Maybe we could approve this subject to just get a clarification around those other opportunities or.
I would, rather than subject to, just seeking clarification as well. Because given that it's rates neutral, and that we have a team that have been moved off their ground to this new ground, I think I wouldn't want to see it slowed down.
Yeah. So the other question I had, which is completely kind of separate to the location issue, but was it a staff agreement or was it a board agreement around the lights? The reason for asking is we've got other clubs in the board's area that were displaced from land as well, lower fields, who had lights, who have never got lights back and feel quite aggrieved by it.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just trying to understand, I think it's great that we've agreed to do this.
Yeah.
How does this open up the precedent for other clubs that are in a similar situation?
Yeah, that was something that we had to carefully consider, and that's why the head of parks has recommended we maintain ownership of the lights. So we're not going to be gifting them to the club as such. What we will be doing is giving them. We believe it's the best outcome for the club and for council. So to sort of hedge ourselves against that particular question coming up, we will retain ownership of these lights, and we will operate them and loan them to the club, and then expect a reasonable reimbursement for the use of them.
I think, so I'm just aware that we've got quite a few things to go on. I think covering that strategic kind of policy consideration around the lights. Did you have any other specific questions to this decision?
No, it's just in terms of the precedent this set says when council displaces a sports club from their field, regardless of who owns the lights, the idea of replacing what they have, I think, is a really good one.
Yeah, agreed. I think it was a staff decision with the club. As I understand it was pre me taking over this project. I believe that is standard protocol, though, that clubs are or should be reimbursed for whatever they lose. So I can't speak about the previous projects, but as I understand moving forward, that should be the process.
Right, well, I'll chase that up separately.
Yeah, definitely should be the process. Greg.
With the potential and artificial going in there, would that be able to go up inside there without the lights having been moved? Or does that consideration be taken in for the depth of the cabling being buried at the same time?
Cabling sits quite well outside the footprint of the football pitch. So I believe that you could retrospectively put artificial turf if you wanted to.
Right. Any other questions? No, you've already. Sorry, is this something you already discussed?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Final question then.
Yeah, just one question from me. So just looking at the plan, the car parking, it has been an issue on the site. Oh, cool. So just one of the previous agreements we had with the Indoor Bowls Club was to upgrade the car park. Is there budget or capacity to do that? I'm just mindful if you put the lights in here, you're probably going to see a lot more usage. But I don't know that car park might be closed at night.
So what's the point of what?
So, relevancy.
So
we make a decision on lights.
Yeah, we're actually
So what would? I'm sorry, I actually missed what Councillor Johansson was saying.
So
what are you
if we
asking?
put the lights in,
yes.
Will it generate additional car parking demand? And if so, is there a way that we can repurpose or give effect to the agreement of improved?
I think that's within order.
Improving the indoor bowls car park that they must use for the sports fields. That's all. That's all I was just trying to understand. Or can we get advice on that as well?
We'd need to seek advice because that form was informed as part of the agreement when we discussed it with the clubs. So it's definitely something we could investigate. I do understand the clubs are quite in need of these lights and wanting us to sort of get on with it as soon as possible. But the parking is definitely something we could look into. I get where you're coming from. That would definitely increase traffic. So,
thank you. Do we have a mover? Moved by Kelly. Is that a seconded by Yanni? Yep. Seconded by Kelly. Yanni. So, any discussion? Any debate? No. Okay. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rob.
So we've done item 14. So now we move on to item number 15. It's Sam's here to talk about the discretionary response fund application for Queen's Park Community Trust. Well, moved by Jackie and seconded by Alex. Any discussion? Any debate, I should say? No. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Happy to move to the next one.
Moved by Jackie, item number 16, that is, Avery House, and seconded by Celeste. Motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So, moved, so this moved by Celeste and seconded by Alex. I assume there's no questions. Motion now be put. All those in favour say aye. Against? Harry, thank you. And so now we move to the area report, and over to you, Christopher.
I was just messaging Rory to let her know there's no question. Trading today. Area report, happy to take as read. It's a really good report from the team again. Lots of cool stuff happening in our area. But yes, I'll just leave it to questions.
Any questions? No questions of the report. Well, I will say then thank you as always for everyone in the team for all your work and for supporting us and serving the community. Yeah, so with that, I'm happy to move that we received that. Is that a question?
Oh, it's just.
Oh,
so I'm happy to second it.
Okay, so that's seconded. So moved by me, seconded by Yanni. Did you want to speak to it, Yanni?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to also acknowledge thanks for the report backs. I thought they were really good to have the report backs on some of the borrowed funding, particularly the Vietnamese workshop. But just it's really nice to get a sense of where the funding has gone. And just want to say I appreciate the detail that you've given. I did raise one question on noise complaints, which I think there's some attachments that have been.
It's not debate.
Sorry, it's fine, sorry, apologies.
We've got that there to follow up with your request around us here, so.
But anyway, thanks staff for doing it. It's been actually really busy. It's an incredibly busy time for us as a board at the moment with a number of different engagements. Definitely change footing, for example, annual plan, possibly Bromley traffic. And so, yeah, just want to acknowledge staff that have been going to a lot of meetings outside of work time, a lot of events outside of work time, and, you know, supporting the community and the board. So thank you. It's much appreciated.
Thank you. So this is debate, not questions. Right. Any further debate? No? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right, thank you. Now we move to elected members information exchange. Celeste.
I was just had a question around the what it's called, but the reports in terms of like flooding and so forth. What it's called.
High risk report.
High risk, thank you. It's been a long meeting. Are we able to get more detailed information about hotspots, flooding hotspots, for instance?
So I think,
because I've had a look and it's very high level.
yes, I think Cindy might be able to chip in. I think the report gives you the sort of top spots. There's quite a bit of work in terms of drilling in, so it depends on what you're looking for, what you're looking to find out. And it might be something that we can feed back to the customer services and the high risk team to see if there's something else they can put into those reports. So it might be worth having a think about what you need, because otherwise if we're drilling into all of the tickets, it's probably similar to the request that Yanni sent through earlier as well around the noise ones. It's depending on what you're looking to achieve with getting out of it.
So specifically, it doesn't have to come through the report, but I think it would be useful to know, for instance, how many complaints we're getting about all tickets with regards to water leaks in specific areas, because what we're seeing is that there are quite a lot of leaks in areas that are reoccurring and challenge areas that we're doing reactive rather than proactive renewals. So whether we should be actually putting more money on budget. To use an example, in Murray Harbour Road, we know that is should be scheduled for a renewal, but we don't have any visibility of the number of leaks. So I think.
So, just sorry, my 2 cents worth on that, and a similar line was said, like, so every month with the hybrid reports you'll get your one pager that will be attached to the agenda, which are your top 10 tickets, and then there'll be a separate attachment that gives you some more context on those top 10s. It's quite difficult unless a specific request comes through as to searching for something that might be of interest, be it water, noise, or anything in particular, if it's not on that top 10. So, and that's quite time hungry too. So I think if it's something that you guys might want occasionally, then that will probably be best dealt with by logging a ticket with the call centre and saying like, hey, could you send me the top 10 or the number of complaints in this radius?
Yeah.
Because
yes, I can understand.
There's the capacity for me to do that and deal with all the other questions and just see what I'm it's a bit much.
I think it's spoken to some people that they said that they have that information quite readily available, and I think it would be helpful for us to put forward identifying some of those areas that are hotspots potentially for renewals as part of the annual plan, bringing forward budget. So I'm not sure what the best way to do that is.
So I think the best way to do that would be to log a ticket, because that's the system that they're working on all the time, that they could possibly pull that information a lot easier. Although I may have access to have an overview, to actually drill down into the detail is a bit more than just scroll in and out and out.
Can we just ask in a general request for if we were looking for that type of information to inform the annual plan, if that would be possible? So specifically around water leaks.
I mean, I would hope that I would hope that that same information has been used to feed in the prioritisation, like for staff, was like, I mean, that's presumably what the system is there for.
What we know is that while it might be prioritised, there might not be sufficient budget, so it might be this is a problem, but we've dropped our levels of service to the point where it won't be renewed for 5 years, so instead we're just patching it in the meantime.
Yeah.
So we can't, from a governance point of view, go, well, we actually need to add more budget.
Well, but I'm sorry, I'm just thinking out loud, but that seems like a simple, as a councillor, that seems like a pretty straightforward question to ask about whether where are we going to reactive pairs? And how much budget do we need on budget in order to be more proactive?
It sounds simple, but with water links, it's not that simple, because the visibility, in terms of actually assessing where the breaks are, it is really hard. The only way you can do that is complaints. So we need to have more visibility of where those complaints are occurring.
So, but my point is though, is that the staff presumably use that information to make their list of priorities, and all you need to know is how much more you need to spend to make those areas that have come up to fund the renewal of those areas, right?
That is part of what we want to know, but we also want visibility of how many areas are not being currently renewed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with getting information. I'm just wondering where the breakdown is.
I think also just to support you guys in that, it's not just a Coastal-Burwood-Linwood issue, that's going to be a citywide issue. So I think that request might sit best with directly going to customer services and logging a ticket, or maybe going through the office of the chief executive and asking them, as it's a citywide, you want the hotspots across the city, not just for coastal on your behalf, then that's something that they can pick up and they might have a little bit more capacity.
Yeah, we can.
And it obviously will feed into your annual plan deliberation, so you could word it along that too.
I must admit, I have put a request in. I was surprised with that, but I guess what I would like to know is, bearing in mind that we don't have that long to prepare for this, the annual plan stuff, just being really specific around where we can probably impact change citywide is probably.
Yeah.
We can submit that we want to put more ratings through renewals, but I would also like to know if the top 3 leads are in Burwood, that we're putting them forward for budget.
And if you want to know what happens if you from reactive renewals being a policy, look at Wellington Water.
Exactly. So there's 2 things. We're already asking for feedback across the city, so that's good. That's already part of the process. But I also would like to know specifically if we can be more efficient in repairing some of the worst ones in our joint board areas as well through the annual plan. So we just need a bit more information to do that. So I guess I'll just wait to hear back about the requests through that.
Well, presumably it's information that all elected members would like. So
and that'll be shared with the board. Thank you.
Cool. I think I saw a hand up from Yanni and then Sharon.
I mean, just in relation to that, the council does have a management improvement plan, and water does feature in that, and that unfortunately is not up to scratch. So yeah, it needs to be prioritised. And I've asked for advice on how we can prioritise getting that asset management plan done. But I think it would be good, because I think to Celeste's point, when we get heavy rain and then we get a whole bunch of the same people contact us around the flooding, it would be good to know kind of what happens. And I guess I'm just concerned that when we have flooding events, there doesn't seem to be any method to capture the impact in communities, other than like I did on Main Street, go and talk to the residents, get the CSRs, but it would be good for us to know what the trends are, if it's possible. Well, I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 hotspots in my ward where I presume people are complaining, but when it floods, it's all.
I'm talking about water links, right?
Yeah, I get it, but it's the same sort of scenario. I've also got areas in my ward where I'm told to do a CSR on water leak, people do it, and then 3 or 4 toby boxes all get replaced on the same street, and you're thinking, surely there's an underlying issue here, rather than just coincidence that everyone's toby box blow up at the same time. So I just want to support the request if we can get more granular information. I think for roads as well and footpaths, it would be useful too.
So just to confirm, so you've got a request in with the Office of the City already, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I've got one specific for that particular road, because we know that there are a number of we've had a huge number in place there, but there's no budget for renewals. And I'm trying to understand why there's no budget for an area that has an identified issue. So that will obviously provide us more information more generally, but I haven't asked for beyond that because I know that's a huge amount of work. But I do think as a board, it's probably useful for us to get a little bit more information about some other hotspots, because there might be 5 across the joint board area. And if they've all got the same issue, that there's just no budget to fix them, but we're spending a huge amount sending people out to patch them up every few months, and that potentially isn't a saving. So.
Yeah.
The question is, do we want to get that information?
Well, we can't use
Yeah.
elected members information exchange. We can, this is, I mean, the things for this is important, but elected members information exchange for report back on liaison groups, report back on important community issues, and councillors to report back on council and committee decisions. So it's out of scope. However, we do agree that I think we'd all like that information. So anything that falls into the categories I just outlined, we can discuss offline how we might be able to get that information.
Okay.
Joe?
Yeah, just following up on the emails that we sent about the red zone confusion and the governance. Have we looked at doing an information sharing session on that?
So staff can arrange us to have a session on that. And I think it's important that we try and have a good relationship with that co-governance body. And work together how we can.
It's just that the board haven't been updated with what's happening, and we're totally unaware of what is happening. So it'd be really good to actually know the details.
Yeah, so now it's established. If we can have regular updates from that co-governance group in terms of what decisions have been made and background and stuff, I think that would be really helpful.
Don't have to meet people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the decision has been made on which council to be on. Because it's.
But even like, how's this, what's the background behind it and everything? I think.
Yeah.
You know, we're totally in the dark about what's happening.
Yeah.
So I think we need to actually be updated and find out what is happening, so that when the community comes to us, that we've got some details.
And so that's just trying to think about important community issue. So I think we all agree that we would like to have more information. I don't want to get into a debate about the formation of the group or anything like that. Question, yes?
Just if it's really just a point of following on from Joe's, I'd be interested to know what the process is to appoint people, because we made the decision to appoint people, but I don't know what the process is.
Up to 3, yeah.
Up to 3, but we don't, how do we appoint them?
Oh, that's a council decision. That's not, yeah. Can we?
But I think it'd be
It
useful.
was the mayor, the deputy mayor, and possibly another.
Sorry,
councillor.
I don't, like it's out of order. Like it's not like this is a council decision. It's been made and the process, like we can't answer that question here.
No, but the request is for information on what the process is, which should be pretty straightforward.
Well, this isn't for requesting information though.
Sorry to interrupt. So just going back to Paul kindly pointing out what the purpose of elected members information exchange is. So before we get to the real lecture, I just wanted to say that I have all of your questions and your requests. As soon as I've got a response from staff, I will let you all know. And alongside that would be organising an information session workshop. I can't tell staff to respond to me sooner rather than later, but I can absolutely chase them again. So we will absolutely deal with this when it's in front of us.
I just want to just back up, like when we can trust that our staff team are diligently following up when they cannot make information come out of the organisation any faster than it does. It is what it is. And so when, I think we just need to wait and see what comes back.
It was more of a clarification of the information that we're looking for. I think I got a bit confused in the email chain.
I think as well, because you're looking for, well, from my perspective, almost 2 things. You're looking for an update around the co-governance and the future of that.
Yeah.
But you're also looking for, and something that I think Councillor Johansson requested a little while ago, more of a session, and I suggested starting with the treaty relations treaty partnership team, I can't remember what they're called, in terms of your broader relationship with Manor Family. So there's two issues that we've got those requests for both of them.
Yep.
Sounds great, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I would like to close the meeting.
So would I.
But
But you do it.
I've got a meeting, but Jan's put his hand up.
I mean, just wanted to let you guys know that Plan Change 20 has been extended. I think staff will extend it for another 2 weeks in terms of the engagement, which I really support. It's been really hard to get people aware of it. Part of the problem is that what's proposed is really hard to explain and easy to understand language because it's a plan change.
Yeah.
But I am trying to get more information around particularly the impact of the noise controls that are proposed so that people can understand what that might do. There are some hard copies as well of individual submission forms and business submission forms, which I am finding in some communities, it's easier to get people to do the hard copy and then put them back in the submission box. So just wanted to raise, or just make you aware of that. Also, just to let you know that the improved Bromley Transport Plan hasn't yet been released. It's really hard to engage on the annual plan around it without having a plan, but it's online and it's quite complex to encourage people to see the specifics. We did have the Bromley Fair, which was really cool. Sadly, we had the organic smell, so it's been really good. We haven't had a lot of complaints about organics, but one day they decide to have the fair, the organic smell comes back, right? Which has been something that's happened quite a few times over the past 15 or so years that the organic smell has been there, but
16.
16. Yeah. So I mean that's quite disappointing. But you know, I know the other thing is to make you aware that the organic plant new facility have always been delayed, and that's really frustrating that it took, you know, individuals repeatedly questioning to find out what had happened rather than people being told when we knew it was likely to be delayed that it had been delayed. Part of that was ECAN, part of that was council, but it might.
I don't believe any of it was council.
No, none of it was council, it was ECAN.
Yeah, there was a lot of problems with the consenting basically, but a consent decision has been made, which is it's going to go up the limited notification. So we now have some clear timeframes around when the consent might be issued, which basically means that there's more certainty around the bill. It does mean it's been delayed for about half a year. Anyway, yeah, disappointing, but you know, I think we would want to make sure that the consenting process is as robust as possible, given the concern that happened when it happened over here. So I do understand that you can taking a cautious approach and making sure that people can have their say, that people are really good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. Shall we? Kia tau, te rangi Māori o te rangi e tū I honei, o Papatuanuku e taku tōnei, o te tāau e awhi nei, ki runga I a tātou, tihei mauri ora. Everyone.